So it's been a minute since we've done any recording, and I'll tell you why. It's late, forgive the homelessness. I have here a box of lifters. Most of my lifters look pretty good. That's how they're supposed to look. Flat bottom, it looks fine. One of my lifters, its guts poured out. Such a shame. I don't know how this happened specifically. So what I ended up having to do is strip down the whole motor. I was originally going to try just one lifter and hope that the cam would make it. And then I took a look at the cam. So here's our camshaft. And as you can see there on this rotor or lifter or whatever the heck this is called, lobe on a cam. Yeah, that's not good. Get it in focus. See, it's all tore up. It's not where it should be. It's got some metal bending over on this side. All the other lifters and all the other lobes were absolutely fine. I decided to take the opportunity to do an experiment. Reading online, going through the forums, and trying to figure out what exactly we can do and how easy it is to get this motor's cam out. All of the reading online was you can't get the cam out with the motor still in the chassis. You have to drop the whole subframe and you have to pull it out before you can slide the new cam in. Kind of close. You can see I have everything disconnected on the top end of the motor. To get down into the valley, a paper bag there just to protect everything from intrusion. Everything on the top is off, cams, rockers, everything. So everything's off. You got your upper intake manifold, lower intake manifold, covers, all that. Everything electronic is off. Batteries disconnected. Disconnect all the clutch, or not the clutch. You disconnect the clutch, the hydraulic clutch. You disconnect the shifter mechanism, and then you lower the car slowly. You got to take the suspension out as well. And if you got a low enough profile jack, so that is a Harbor Freight, I went out and bought it. That is a Harbor Freight 1.5 ton jack, supported on the subframe. We jacked this up as high as we could get my other Sears Craftsman one to go. And we put it on some jack stands. You could even get it up higher than this, but I wouldn't really recommend it because everything is kind of stretched. We had to bend this brake line because we have stainless steel lines. This is not ideal in the tension, but for what we're dealing with, this should be fine. So we're not going to be here long. So we got a straight shot down into our cam hole. So you can do it without dropping the whole motor out. Really to go on from here, I mean, you got to disconnect everything. Is it that much more of a difficult job to disconnect the two sub bolts here and take the whole thing out? Yes and no. There's still a lot of stuff in here that's connected. And it gave us the opportunity to take off the AC bracket here and get really down in here. So we got to reconnect the engine mount here. It fell off. I don't know how that happened, but we're in here now. We can take care of this stuff. We can freshen up what needs to be freshened up. It gave me an opportunity to look at the remanned motor that was supposed to be put into this car. Again, I don't blame the seller, Mr. Not Forgotten Fiero guy, because he was just giving me the information he got. But a lot of this looks like a lot of RTV and not really, I mean, the ideal way to do it. They just murdered everything in here with RTV. It's also going to give me an opportunity to put in a new water pump. I got to remove this sensor because that sensor we don't use anymore. This sensor we do use. We can move it up top now. But look at that water pump. It is just disgusting. So we're going to be able to, at this point, with the exception of that is a future project there. That is buddies, so just ignore that. That is something as well for this. But regardless, so besides the, you can see my reflection. Besides the oil pump and the crankshaft, which we did technically touch the crankshaft by getting down into the motor this far, we will have touched everything on this motor. So the long and short of it is I know now everything's been gone through, and I'm not saying it was done well, but I know I did it, so I know what my success and failures are. So yeah, do I recommend doing it in this system as opposed to dropping the whole motor? Depends on what your budget is. So like, I'm going to put this cam through here. It is kind of finicky because you have like no room for error here. You're right up against this. You're right up against this. You really have to get that in there. You know, extra bolts, a lot of grease, and a lot of patience. Just glide it on through. Yeah, I like doing it this way because I don't have to disconnect every electronic thing on the back of this car again. I can leave a lot of the mounts and everything in place. It's 2 bolts and it's the suspension that's going back up in here. It's taking up a lot less room. I have a relatively large garage, but this is pulling this whole thing apart and doing this project over a course of a few days would really eat up a ton of time. So that's kind of my opinion there. If you have the space and you want to be absolutely certain, going from here to dropping the whole thing out, go for it. If you just want to put a new cam in, this is the way I think you should just do it. So that's kind of my 2 cents. So now that I'm out of like tech tip mode here, that's our old camshaft right here. That's the new one. I don't know the grind on this one. I know it's a comp cam in theory. I think it might even say so somewhere on here when I get into looking at it. Here, I can decode this. Someone on the internet will be smarter than me. So it's a 253800. I think this cam, based on the specs they gave me from the sketchy eBay store, is roughly the same as the mild comp cam. So we should be good to go on that. I'm going to slather this thing in engine assembly lube. I'm going to make sure this thing does not meet the same fate as this thing. So that would make me very sad, as to get to this point was several days worth of work. So not a ton of work each day, but it was several days worth of work. And re-installing everything, like the cam is fine. The cam and the lifters, that was for the set. I think I spent like $150, which is a pretty good deal. But then you have every gasket you have to get for everything, and just new water pump because that one's garbage. So it was fun. So I'm going to lather this thing up and I'm going to get it installed, and then I'll meet you after that. As you can see, I probably overdid it with the assembly lube, but better lubricated than not when you're sticking stuff in tight holes. So I'm going to do that. I got to put all the assembly back together. I got some lifters to put in. They've been sitting over there in oil for like days now, so they're definitely full. I have a bunch of gaskets to clean up and take care of, so that's gonna be fun. And that and a couple other things. So I think what I'll do is I'll call this episode done. You know, this is if you're trying to figure out if you can put a camshaft in without moving the motor completely out of the car, you can do it. Is it easier? Yeah, only just. This is probably, unfortunately, I have a lot of experience taking motors motors out of this specific car in and out and in and out. You do get better at it. Doing it this way as opposed to taking the whole thing out, this is probably a 7 out of 10 on pain in the ass, whereas taking the whole motor out is definitely at least a solid 9, if not 10 on the pain in the ass scale. So it's up to you, and it's really, if you don't have defender liners or anything like that in here, it's even easier. So there's that. So if you like it, do YouTube shit. So thanks everyone. Bye-bye.